Hi everyone, my name is Taylor England and my presentation is called Let's Move, Encouraging Healthy Habits in Teens. I hope you enjoy. So a personal background about me. Again, my name is Taylor England. I am working towards my second degree. My first degree was a Bachelor of Arts in Educational Studies in which I received from Endicott College in the spring of 2017. And I am currently working towards my Master's of Science in Applied Nutrition through the University of New England, and I am on track to graduate in August of 2020. Although I don't have any fieldwork experience since I am new to the world of nutrition, I do have several courses under my belt, which include Trends and Issues in Nutritional and Global Food Systems, Nutrition Across the Lifespan, Research Methods, Nutrition and Metabolism, Nutrition Education and Health Behavior Change, and Nutrition Practice for Health Promotion and Disease Prevention. So a plan for the seminar. Prior to the start of the seminar, the participants will be provided a physical activity and dietary questionnaire. And the purpose of this questionnaire is to assess and just get a sense of what these teens do on a daily basis, how active they are most of the time, what foods they typically enjoy or consume on a daily basis, how often they eat out as opposed to being home, and just a general baseline of their nutritional knowledge before entering into this seminar. Then we will discuss the goals of the seminar, as well as the target audience and why we chose that target audience for our seminar. Then we will move into discussing teenage obesity and the causes and risk factors of teenage obesity. And each of these sections will provide a question that the participants will be given the option to think about and answer, and then we will take the time to go over the answers afterwards. After this, we will move into discussing healthy alternatives such as ways to stay active, eating healthy, and making sure you're always choosing supportive environments for yourself. And we will end with audience activities, which will take up about an hour and a half to 2 hours and consist of a cooking lesson, a relay race, a matching food to 5 food groups game, and creating your own 7-day breakfast menu. So the seminar learning objectives. By the end of the seminar, students will be able to define obesity, discuss causes and risk factors of obesity, review which foods and behaviors cause obesity, describe how screen time affects weight status, identify the importance of being physically active, prepare sample meals incorporating the 5 food groups, and practice properly measuring food. So for our target audience, as many of you may have figured out by now, are going to be teenagers at risk for obesity. So what is teenage obesity? A child's weight is determined by calculating their body mass index. A child, as well as teenagers' BMI, is calculated by their weight in kilograms and dividing that number by their height squared. For children and teenagers, BMI largely depends on age and gender due to the body continuously changing and maturing. And a teenager that is at or above the 95th percentile for their weight for age is considered to be obese. So why did we choose teenagers? Well, the teenage years occur between the ages of 15 and 17 years of age, which is considered middle adolescence, although sometimes 13 and 14-year-olds consider themselves teenagers. But at this age, teenagers really start becoming more independent, and by gaining independence, teenagers may start eating more regularly away from home and start getting sick of mom and dad's home-cooked meals. And it is known that 1 in 12 teenage children will weigh at least 100 pounds more than their expected weight upon entering adulthood. And teenagers are more likely to suffer from stress, depression, and bullying regarding their weight. So the teenage years are also a very critical time period. Entering into the teenage years has been found to severely impact dietary and activity levels, especially among females. Teenagers are considered a high-risk population due to the changing body composition, different dietary and activity behaviors, and hormonal and cognitive changes. These changes in size, shape, and undergoing puberty typically cause teens to feel dissatisfied with their appearance, as well as engage in unhealthy dietary practices such as binge eating, skipping meals, or even limiting important nutrients such as carbs, protein, and even dairy to unhealthy amounts. So mentioned previously, this is when they really become more independent, which typically results in the development of habits that will last a lifetime. So interventions that target healthy eating and increased physical activity importance could promote goal setting in teenagers, which could in turn decrease their risk for obesity-related health in the future. So for our first question, it is what percentage of children and teens ages 6 to 19 are currently suffering from obesity? 50%, 5%, 33%, or 20%? So currently, 1 in 5 children and teens, so 33%, between the ages of 6 and 19 years of age are suffering from obesity. And only 2% of all teenagers eat a healthy diet. A survey also reported 3 out of 10 high school seniors ate vegetables close to every day, while 1/4 of these vegetables were either French fries or potato chips, so still very unhealthy and loaded with a lot of sodium. And what's even worse is the life expectancy in teens could decrease by 5 years due to obesity. So, what are the top 3 results of teenage obesity? Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer, asthma, gallbladder disease, and stroke, osteoarthritis, liver disease, and high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, sleep disturbances, and learning difficulties. So, the most common health conditions that teenage obesity can lead to include cardiovascular disease or heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. However, teenage obesity still can lead to both physical and social emotional disturbances in one's health. Additional obesity-related health conditions include, for physical, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, liver disease, breathing problems, sleep disturbances, and bone fractures. And for social emotional disturbances, one may experience lowered self-esteem, learning difficulties, behavioral problems, anxiety, or depression. So, what do you think are the top 3 causes of teenage obesity? Genetics, income, and family influences, diet, lack of exercise, and watching too much television, poor sleep routines, stress and the environment, or peer pressure, lack of nutritional knowledge, and food availability. So, unhealthy diets, lack of physical activity, and engaging in too much screen time are the 3 leading factors of teenage obesity. However, several other factors contribute to childhood obesity. They include family factors, socioeconomic factors, and psychological factors. For family factors, if a child comes from a family that buys foods high in calories, fat, sodium, and sugar, they are most likely to gain weight. For psychological factors, stress that is personal or a result of a family issue can cause children to overeat, but children also tend to overeat when they are bored, too. And for socioeconomic factors, families who live in areas with less money may have little access to supermarkets with quality food. Rather, they tend to purchase frozen foods from the convenience stores. So, for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus on screen time. So what is screen time? Today's generation of teenagers are failing to engage in the minimum time required each day for physical activity. Teenagers spend most of their time watching too much television, playing on an iPad, using their phone, or playing video games, which is engaging in what is known as screen time. It is recommended that children and teens spend no more than 2 hours per day engaging in screen time. However, many teenagers do not abide by this rule. Teenagers who watch more than 2 hours per day of television usually have unhealthy diets, do not engage in physical activity, and hardly eat any fruit. 92% of 12 to 17-year-olds engaged in more than 2 hours per day of television, the internet, and video games. And teenagers are more likely to eat foods that have a lot of fat, sugar, and sodium when watching television. And more often than not, teenagers will disregard their feeling of being full when watching TV due to distractions, which will cause overconsumption. And fast food and snacks are advertised on at least 80% of television channels per day. And this has contributed to fast food being eaten by at least 30% of American teens each day. So fast food is optimal defaults for teens. To put into perspective the detrimental effects that fast food can pose on an individual's health, only 15 out of 3,039 kids' meal combinations from fast food venues actually meet the nutritional requirements for teenagers. And at least 800 to 1,200 calories are consumed in a typical fast food meal that a teenager will purchase, which averages at least 30% more of unhealthy fats and added sugars. When teenagers eat out, they will consume more than half of their daily recommended sodium intake. Why? Because of optimal defaults. Now, in the nutrition world, optimal defaults are already chosen foods that do not require any level of conscious thinking unless someone decides to opt out. When teens go to McDonald's and order a kids' meal, the optimal default side is French fries. So unless a teen wants a healthier alternative, which I am unsure what would that even be for McDonald's, they will choose the French fries, the default option. Now, studies have tested fast food menus by purchasing kids' meals from at least 250 different fast food places in order to see how likely healthier options are provided over unhealthier options by employees. These studies found that at least 84% of the time, fast food venues such as McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, and Burger King will automatically provide unhealthy snacks such as fries over healthy sides to their customers. Now, the above table indicates the top 4 leading fast food venues for the teenage generation, how many millions they spent on food advertisements in 2009, and the millions of teenagers that viewed each of the advertisements. So with this being said, there are several other fast food venues contributing to teenage obesity, but it is clear that McDonald's is the leading culprit. In 2009 alone, McDonald's spent almost $900 million on television advertisements, which resulted in 284 million teenagers viewing. So, studies have indicated that at least 40% of parents have told that in 1 week their teens will ask to eat McDonald's, while at least 60% of teens will actually go to McDonald's on a weekly basis. It's not just television either. Just from 2007 to 2009 alone, television advertisements for McDonald's, Subway, and Burger King skyrocketed. The views of advertisements from teenagers increased 26% for McDonald's, 10% for Burger King, and 59% for Subway. However, fast food venues are also accessible to teenagers via social media, the web, and other forms of online media, such as phone apps. And each month, each of the McDonald's 13 websites have invited at least 294,000 teenage viewers, while at least 8 fast food venues provide mobile apps so you can access their food from anywhere at any time. So, let's focus on healthy defaults. Before moving on to healthy alternatives, healthy dietary practices, and increasing levels of physical activity, it is important to briefly go over healthy defaults. As mentioned earlier, a default is a predetermined option that most often than not someone is unaware of. Rather, they just think, well, this is what goes best with the meal since it's listed as the side. Default options can get tricky, especially when making healthy dietary choices, because what is usually offered on a menu people won't think much of. Default options are basically mindless actions, so when people want to try being healthy, they will opt out and choose healthier alternatives. For instance, my default breakfast is a scrambled egg with red peppers and a piece of wheat toast. But when I'm out of my groove, like when I travel and stay in a hotel, my default may be just to go with the yogurt parfait. It may not be my norm, but it's still healthy as opposed to the other defaults, such as boxed cereal or pancakes. So, as we are about to learn about healthy nutrition practices, keep in mind healthy defaults. They will come in handy as you start becoming more independent with your food choices, especially when eating out.